Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lunchtime with Anna. I know I've been on hiatus for about 3 weeks now. I've been doing some filming. I had a procedure. I've been really busy working on some things with the Human Justice Organization. So, as you guys know, I'm always doing something. So I apologize if you haven't heard and been looking for the show, but like I said, we're in the transition of moving some things around because we're going to be going more radio than iPod on Divine Radio, which we're still working a few things in and out. I also wanted to let you guys know, look, my book Judy, there'll be a red carpet event on the 21st of October. That is the weekend of my birthday, guys. A red carpet premiere event for the movie as well as the book. Please, if you can, make it out. This will be in Florida, will not be in Georgia. I know I travel between both states. So just know that you guys can drop in and let me know. Anyway, I have a very special guest here. We've been in communication. How I communicate with people, I never reveal to you guys because I have the Human Justice Organization as well as other things. So I have to protect the people I bring on as well as myself. This is Abdul Shakur. Abdul, are you available? He is only here by sound, by the way, guys.
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you, Abdul? I'm so glad you were able to make this happen.
Okay, I'm doing good.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And so, I know a little bit about you. Guys, we had a really nice conversation before actually airing, and I got to know him a bit. But he wants to tell you guys a story of actual facts, right, that have happened. And this is what happens to our men of color, our women of color. Okay. And when I say this because it is mostly us minorities, as they say, but we're really majority who are going through this within the system, who are in these predicaments within the system. Abdul?
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and start telling your story?
Yes.
Thank you.
The story that I'm telling, it represents a collective, not an individual, right? We have a class of prisoners called New African Revolutionary Nationalist Class. We are committed towards the liberation of our people, fighting injustice and changing the prison industrial slave complex. But our primary responsibility is rebuilding our communities. As a direct result of our beliefs and our connection to Comrade George Jackson and W. Nolan, they have labeled a terrorist gang. But in the process, they have also criminalized Black history books, Black history literature, and we are the primary and only class of prisoners that have been politically persecuted as a direct result of our writing, of our political writings, of our thing called critical race theory. And they spreading this idea throughout the country so they can justify removing history, Black history in particular, from college campuses, as well as high school campuses. What we're saying, they already done it in prison with our particular class. In possession of a book, a Black history book, we can receive administrative time. What I mean by that, I spent almost 33 years in solitary confinement, but I was scheduled for release in 2007 from isolation. But the fact that I had my own book that I wrote, Criminology 101, Blood in My Eyes, Material about the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, Abdul Shakur, Malcolm X, Kwame Nkrumah, Black August, they used that to justify keep me in the hole 7 more years. We initiated a campaign because, like I said, me and my comrades, it's the only class as far as California is concerned that was locked in the Pelican Bay solely because of our political beliefs and ideals. And this process is, it is well documented by them because it was considered legal and legit in what they was doing. The court supported them, the politicians supported them. We initiated 3 hunger strikes in California. 2 in 2011, then we initiated the big one, the biggest one in history in the United States. Over 30,000 people participated throughout, not just the United States, but in other countries as well. 19 of us did 60 days straight without eating, and it almost killed us all. My heart is permanently damaged because of that hunger strike. But our hunger strike and our class action lawsuit led to our release. But why this is important is that you have politicians in California who claim they didn't know that. So when they held their sentencing hearing, they realized 28 of us did between 30 and 50 years in solitary confinement, primarily my comrades and myself. And they claim they didn't know this was taking place. And one of the reasons why we want this to be exposed, because you got brothers and sisters right now that are being subjected to the same isolation for the same reason throughout the country.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we're doing now is this here, we initiated a campaign called Restitution Now. And we demanded restitution for what they've done to us. They were forced by the federal courts and politicians to release us from solitary confinement between 2014 and 2015. I got out in 2015. They was released by force. Now, in California, if you're in solitary confinement, you cannot receive a parole date. You're either going to have to snitch or you're going to die. That's the only way you're going to leave. And this was a practice, an open practice in California. You could not get a receipt. You cannot receive a date. What we're saying is this here. We already proved, even on an interview, I think it was 2016, the secretary of the California Department of Corrections on 60 Minutes, and he acknowledged that they made a mistake keeping us in isolation that long. What we're saying is this here. You committed a crime against us, and you exploited that process. Now we are released 30, 40 years later, and the board still continue to prosecute us for that. And what I mean by this, while you're in isolation, you cannot engage in certain educational or vocational programs, programs that are required for parole date. We was like that unjustly. So when we get out, the board tell us, come back in 3 more years, 5 more years, 7 more years. Wait a minute. The things that you're requiring me to do, I could have done 20 years ago if I wasn't in the solitary confinement unjustly. So what we're doing is this here. We're telling you, the CDC, the California Department of Correction, the prison industrial slave complex, you owe us restitution. You kept us illegally held, denying us an opportunity to get a parole, and now you're trying to persecute us even further for the crime you committed against us. So our movement is demanding our immediate release for the crimes they have committed against us. So that's where we at right now.
Okay, that's a whole lot, because in 30 years, well, in 2 years, so much can happen, right? In 2 years, you can get an associate's degree. Being realistic, if you're taking your classes the way you should, you can get an associate's degree. So what you're saying is anybody who was within your circle, or this was all just people of color? I just want to understand.
The reason why we were distinct in this, right? Mm-hmm. It affected all people. It affected the whites as well. It affected all people, right? But our class was the only one documented for our political beliefs and ideals. And that's the distinction. We were the only one where, say, I can't read a Malcolm X book, but you can.
Yeah.
If you was a Latin or a white, you can have Blood in My Eyes by George Jackson. Can't. You can have Malcolm X. I can't. You see what I'm saying? And if you was identified, say like you had other black prisoners, and they use it as a way to deny them their own rights and know their history. Because once they get caught with Blood in My Eyes, they come to the hole for allegedly being members of our collective because they just had the book.
I see.
And this is proven in our class action lawsuit. This information was presented to the federal judge. In fact, you have politicians at that time in 2013 doing the class action lawsuit stating that collective right there, you have to take them off the gang list because they're not involved in any type of criminal activity. You got to separate them from the other groups. But law enforcement, FBI, IGI, SSU, all these different agencies said, oh no, even though they could not attach us to any type of criminal activity. And this is why we are distinguished from the rest, because all these other groups, unfortunately, since the time we was in Pelican Bay opened up in 1989 and it shut down in 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. In that time span, these other groups have been indicted for murders and everything 10, 15 times. We have never been indicted. We have never been under any type of criminal allegations or criminal conspiracy. So I'm saying that's the difference. And it's important that we show that distinction. And this is something that everybody here understands that. It's not that many of us. There's only about 30 of us. Mm-hmm. And since we got out of solitary confinement, I've had like 11 comrades that was released. The last one, he did 53 years. Wow. He got locked up in 67. He just got out about 4 or 5 months ago. But it's like 9 of us left, 10 of us left. You know, so it's not like we cannot address nobody else's issue because our issue is different.
Everybody's issue, of course. Yeah.
We have what we call the institutional restitution, where they were requesting and demanding restitution. Then we have the strategic relief issue. The strategic relief is this. The strategic relief is, say you have people who have spent their time, they've done their time, and done everything, right? They, from the age of 50 on up, they've served 30 years or more. What we're saying under strategic relief, these individuals should be released. But not only that, what we're saying is this here, facilitating a process or a path that will allow people who are committed to changing the community to be released. And we have individuals, regardless of what color they are, if they committed to building our community, I'm going to be blunt with you, and I'm not going to be part of a program that facilitates a path for thugs and pimps and drug dealers to get back to the community. I don't want no part of that, right? Our thing as revolutionary, we want to rebuild our communities. We want to eradicate the ills. We can do that without working with the government or the pig. Our whole commitment is transforming the black criminal gangster mentality into a revolution mentality that's going to build our community, not destroy it, right? So we develop these ideas and these movements specifically for that. Like I said, the strategic release is more broad. That covers a lot of, from California to New York. Restitution now is also beginning to be picked up by conscious brothers and sisters in other states, because many of them have been subjugated to the same thing. And
yes,
they're coming right now. I'm just going to put it down, all right?
Okay. So you're hearing what they're going through. I knew that he would be putting the device down. I was aware before the interview. I just want you guys to understand the severity of what it is to be sitting in solitary confinement for 30 years. Nothing, but you're still sitting there. There was 9 to 10, he said, I think, that were able to get out, and now we're still dealing with others. That's tough. First of all, like I told him pre-interview, we need sunlight. We need that sunlight. We need that vitamin D. How can you just be sitting in there, no explanation, no nothing? You just slipped through the cracks. It was our mistake. And what do I get in return? Just, and I'm sorry, because I am part of the system for whatever the cause, whether they were guilty, not guilty, that's between them and the courts. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the unjust treatment that was done to them while they were sitting in there, and then what they got to deal with. So it seems a lot. And when he comes back, after he gets done telling, I will ask some questions, and I'm sure many of you guys are probably wondering at this point of how that was in there, and then what we're doing now to get there, to get this all taken care of, which he's going a little bit into that. Right. This this right here is a tough situation to deal with. tough situation to be in. I could not imagine any loved one of mine, whether it's a friend or family member, or even somebody I just know, just sitting in solitary confinement because they just assume certain things and want to make you pay for certain things. It just does not make sense to me. It just doesn't. I thought it was very important to interview him because you guys know I will interview across the slate because things like this, they need to be released. Things like this, some people don't want to talk about it, you know, and I'm willing to listen. So we're going to give him a few more minutes to get back. It's like I said, he's in the middle of something right now. You mind getting me going? So, but as you guys heard, he wrote some books. So I'm going to make sure I get this information for you guys before we get off air. See if where they're available, if you're able to still get them, and what the process is for that. So we'll take care of that here in a few minutes.
I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, I was just having a little conversation with him, you know, going back on some of the things that you said. So, well, before I ask any questions, is there anything else that you'd like to add up till now that you've spoken of?
Yeah, and another thing that's unique about our situation, everything is documented. They tried to poison me right after the hunger strike, and that is documented. But they trying to blame some prisoners in general population, but there's no way they could have done that because they didn't know the trade was coming to me. They did it, and when people called in to ask what happened, the warden and the administration said, "Well, it's confidential. We can't tell nobody." But I got the clown. I got the documentation on all that. So everything they've done to us is documented. You know, denying us the right to write. Our family, like I said, I was banned from writing for years. I couldn't even write my own mother or my wife.
So wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Your mother nor your wife were even able to call the prison to make a well check on you. I can imagine they were putting money in your books.
I couldn't even write them. You know, let me say this here.
Wow.
I'm a new African freedom fighter. And one of the things I don't do is put a burden on my mother or my wife. Me, I've been married almost 30 years, and not once have I asked for a dime. In fact, I use my skills, my books, my ability to start business to help my wife. She needed more than I do in here. So I've written like 9 books. All the royalties go to her. So I want to, clarify that, and that's our class. I'll never impose anything on my wife or my mother. She died in 2007. Never do that, right? But they did prevent me from writing her for a couple of years until I won a law. I won 4 lawsuits when I was in solitary confinement. All of them was for free speech. All of them. They opened up my legal mail. I won a lawsuit for that. They refused to allow me to use my name, even though I've had it over 40 years. So I won that. But one thing I want people to understand is that everything I'm saying is documented. From the time they physically abused them to the time they try to poison them, everything is well documented, and it was documented by them. That's how arrogant it became because the system turned a blind eye to it. So it is all documented.
Okay. So first thing I want to say to you is from a strong woman's perspective. Wow. It is hard to meet men out in the real world that do what you do. And big ups to you and congratulations to your wife for having an outstanding husband who does what he's supposed to do at all times. And that's really good. I want to make sure that we get the information for those books before logging off today. So I want to go back to that before we get off air.
Give me 1 second. I gotta give this do my dinner tray. They're picking up a tray in trash right now, right?
Okay.
It ain't gonna take that long.
No, you're fine. It's outstanding to see that a person from in there can actually take their smarts, write a book, give your wife the royalties, and then turn around and take care of your mom and your wife. But you're not even allowed to write your wife. How does a warden sleep at night? How do people who allow this stuff to happen sleep at night? Because these inmates still have families. They still have people who love them out in the real world. How is that?
Now, hey, I'm back, right?
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say this here. Now, for those brothers or prisoners in general, if they do get money from their family, I have no problem with that. I don't criticize them for that, nothing. I'm just talking about me and my class, me and my comrades. This is something that we do.
Oh, no, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it.
I want people to understand that I'm not condemning no one else that do that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. If they got a loved one who can afford to send them something, then go for it. Yeah. Do it. But from our class perspective, we've been given and blessed with certain skills and talent that we can use, and we cannot use something they can find me as an excuse. All my books is written in isolation, started in confinement. I started a business with my wife for her. So I'm saying all the resources I had was for her. I'm in isolation. I don't need nothing. I don't care nothing about no name, brand, junk, and none of that. The only thing I clothes to cover my naked body. That's all that matters, right? So being that way in prison doesn't change our relationship. We're committed to our family. But for those who do that, I'm not condemning them. Do what you have to do to survive.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I totally get that. It just impressed me. It just really did. Because a lot of times, and I'm nothing I've experienced at this point in my life, right? But when I was younger, I've been there, I've done that. Like I say, and I always joke about it. And like I tell people, I will never put myself in no situation that's crazy like that again in my life. So I'm just applauding you and your comrades on that. Like, I absolutely, I love it. I love it as a woman who's been there, done that. I love it. I love it, and continue doing what you do.
And we've been together almost 30 years now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Since 1993.
That's a long time. That's a long time. Yeah. Okay. So now, you guys, I just wanted to make sure I have to acknowledge a good man, right, or good qualities I see when I catch it, because sometimes you just don't see that anymore. So just big ups to you and your comrades on that. Now, to go back to the solitary confinement. You said 30 years?
So 32 years and 8 months.
32 years and 8 months.
Yeah. And 25 was spent in Pelican Bay.
25 in Pelican Bay. So, yeah. Go back to Pelican Bay. Tell us. Yeah. Huh?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, tell us about that nightmare.
Again, how you survive is solely based on what you believe in, right? And I tell people, because you mentally sane and you didn't go crazy, doesn't mean you survive. What we saying is this here: we utilize that isolation as a platform to transform ourselves as well. If you believe in something that's much bigger than you, you're going to survive, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others. So you become more determined. Mm-hmm. When I look at that prison cell, and this is something that I developed years ago called the George Jackson University, we transform ourselves into classrooms. We transform ourselves to think tanks. We transform ourselves to gyms. We transform that cell. We make it what it is. If the cell is a cell for you, you're not going to grow. Reading, hold up. Reading love novels and sex books and all that do not help you grow. Again, it depends on what you believe in. The fact that we believe in something that was greater than ourselves. We believe in helping our community and building our community. You keep your focus, you keep your discipline, because you say, well, I'm doing this for my future generation. I'm doing this for the kids. So it allows you to resist more. Now, I'm not saying believe it. Again, all of us went through some mental torture and continue to do so. Like Comrade George Jackson said, you do not come out of solitary the way you came in, and you don't. Some of us done better than others, right? But my beliefs and the beliefs that we believe in terms of fighting for our people, fighting for the poor and oppressed, it aided us in withstanding the oppression, because they done everything in their power. They done everything in their power. They done everything in their power to bring us down. They done everything in their power to kill our spirit. But when you say, well, fighting for our future generation, fighting for the kids, when that becomes a motivation, nothing can stop you. So every day I spend in Pelican Bay, when I get up in the morning, this is my gym, I exercise. After exercise, this is my classroom, I study and I write. After that, this is my think tank. I develop ideas, proposals, and programs that are going to aid and assist our community in stabilizing our community. So what you do to that cell. So all my time was spent in that of my comrades, because when they had us in the pod, they had isolated us first. So we was all in the same pod together. So all we did all day was have dialogue, discussions, debates over various issues. We constantly stay in that revolutionary state of mind. We transformed those cells into think tanks, schools. So when you wake up in the morning, you didn't see a cell that was closing in on you. When you woke up in the morning, you seen your gym. Let me get up and exercise. After that, my classroom. Let me get up and study. After that, my think tank. Let me develop and dedicate my mind towards bettering my community. So that's when you look at it like that, you're going to survive. So I'm not, but that doesn't negate all the effort that was being made, designed to destroy our spirit, destroy our mind. That's part of the process. And for those of us who claim to be revolutionary, we get the blunt force of it. But that's part of the process. I've never cried, none of my kind. We don't cry nothing because we understand. When you get on the front line, we already know what is required. We already know what is expected. So not too many people have been through what I've been through. And not too many people have been, let's say, sensitive more than I have. But that's part of the process. I am a freedom fighter. I'm a revolutionary. I'm telling you capitalist bastards, we want to change this system. Of course they're going to come at me. Of course they're going to come at me, my comrade. I'm saying we're going to change this system. We're going to get rid of this racist, fascist system, this sexist system. We're going to destroy the global conspiracy against poor people, against people of color. When you believe in that, you're going to get the blunt force of everything. I believe also that staying in isolation also helps us discover our true spirit, our true self, our inner strength, our inner power. So it's how I can't speak for nobody else. As far as me and my collective, in order for us to survive, we had to control our space. And controlling your space, you have to transform that space into something that's beneficial to you. That space was our space to help us grow and develop. That's not, again, like I said, that does not negate all the effort that's being made to destroy our mind. That's part of the struggle. Because each time they came, it made us stronger. Each time we survived, we got stronger. So like I say, I know a lot of people want to hear, the bad and this. No, Pelican Bay was off the chains. Pelican Bay was crazy, But from my perspective, as a new African revolutionary, we expected everything. When I was in solitary confinement and I woke up in the morning, I was like, damn, I'm still breathing, because I expected worse. Because I know who I'm dealing with. And I know all that they have tried to do to me, right? You'll rarely hear me talk about, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. It was all that. I believe that having a clear understanding of what we're up against should motivate people more than saying, well, they tortured me. I've been tortured multiple times. I've had tasers attached to my testicles. I've done all. I've been there all. You know, but that's not. I mean, in most of my writing, you'll read some of that in my book, right? But that's not my focus. My focus is giving people an understanding of what's at stake, even for them. You know, because when people need to, yes.
May I interrupt real quick? I just want to tell you this. You're an inspiration even to me, and because I could see where you're coming from, and I like to relate, right? I told you already, I love to read, and I'm going to read your books, I promise you. I I see it as, you know, and I may be wrong. I've never been to prison, okay? So I have no idea. I could just go by what I assume or think, right? So I could just picture this being like a jungle, right? But you're keeping your calm through the mess, through that jungle, through that disaster. You're just keeping your calm and your focus on doing the things. Am I understanding you correctly? Because that's what I gathered from what you were saying.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like you have a square that you stand on. You control that square. You can't control nothing outside that square. When you allow people to enter your square and dictate to you, then that's when you begin to start falling. May it be from insanity, may it become emotional, whatever the case may be. You allow others to dictate your decisions, right? But when you control that square, and I use the chess philosophy, the chess concept, right? Think before you move. Every move you make, you must think and rethink and continue to think. You know, and that's one of the problems that we have as poor people, people of color. For the most part, we don't think. We play like checker players. We think like checker players, one move at a time. We never look ahead. The power structure is 10, 20, 30 years ahead of us. They already know 20 years from now what they're going to do to us. Yeah. They know this already because they know our pattern. They know our game. Yeah. And think like checker players, you'll never beat a chess player. We take a checkerboard to a chess game, we get spanked all the time. And that's and remember this, the prison industrial slave complex is a part of this global fascist society. It's not separate. The struggle doesn't stop at the prison gate. This is just another battlefield. That's what people need to understand. So what I'm saying, we in here have to think ahead. Like in California, what we initiated was the agreement to end hostility. There was war between black Mexicans and whites in California. This went on from the late 1950s all the way into the 24, 25, right? We wasn't thinking ahead. In 2000, a major riot took place in Pelican Bay State Prison in general population. And about 34, 35 brothers got stabbed. Now, one of the brothers out there gave a letter to one of the cops to bring to me. I'm in solitary confinement, me and my brother. And they say, man, we need help. I wrote the blueprint towards ending the war among the races. And one of my comrades, he took that blueprint and brought life to it 79 years later. And that's how we got the agreement to end hostilities. And we brought people from different groups come together and they agreed to end this conflict. Wouldn't for that, we wouldn't be out here now. That's one of the things that they was banking on, that we couldn't end this race war, and we did. You know, and that's another thing that people don't understand, is that the peace and the lack of violence, or the violence reduction in California, was done because of us, not them. They didn't do nothing to reduce violence. We did that. We ended conflict. Even to this day, we continue to fight every day to maintain this truce, to maintain this peace. They don't do none of that. And that's another thing we're looking at. You quick to tell us what we did wrong when we go to the board, but you slow to give us credit for bringing peace to your prison system. You know, we get no credit for that. But the thing is this here. If you control your square, control your square. If you control your square, you can do anything you have to, anything, in here, out there, anything, because you control your square, control your space. When you allow other things to come into your square, I'm not saying it's easy. Even when the pigs would continue to harass me, I had to fight it. I had to prevent myself. Every now when I was young, I'd go off. I was still
I think
young.
we all did. I think we all did when we were younger. You learn that with age to calm down.
That didn't make sense, right? I really went off. I ain't talking about no verbal word. I got a knife and went off.
Yeah.
So, and it was a lack of discipline.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It was a lack of discipline. And a lot of things I did at the time was avoidable, but I allowed my emotions to dictate my actions. I had no square. I couldn't define my square. Once I defined the fact that I do have a square, and if I control it, because my brother, he just, like I said, he got out about 4 or 5 months ago. He did almost 53 years. I've been knowing this man for 40 years. He came to prison in 67, 68. I've never seen him lose his cool. Not once. I've never heard a man curse. He controlled. And this is about almost 37 years ago when he told me about the space. We got to control our square. He said, I get mad at these pigs, but I'm not going to never let them see how I feel. Because once they know that they can irritate you, they're going to push your button every opportunity they get. And that's what I did. I allowed them to see the fact that they were effective in controlling my emotions. So they kept coming until I learned that I have a square that I must protect and defend. You see what I'm saying? So once I learned that square, they pretty much stopped doing what they were doing because they wasn't having no impact on them no more. You know, so the square is the square that you create. And inside that square, you have to, check that. Let me say this here. I had a discussion with a white prisoner, and we had this dialogue. Now, he's one of the ones that wrote the original lawsuit that got us out. So I was speaking to him. I said, check this out, man. Why are you doing the same thing you did before you went to the hole? You have no growth and development. You going back to the same way you was. You making them look good. We sacrificed too much to come out here and do the same thing you did before you went to the hole. Where's the growth and development? It can't be no growth and development when you're doing the same thing. Where's the growth? What we trying to say is this here. If you find yourself in that situation, use that space to better yourself. Use that space to strengthen yourself. Use that space, because remember, that space is designed to destroy you. That space is designed to destroy your mind, your body, your spirit. Is designed to destroy you. Just exercising and reading the books is not surviving. But strengthening the way you think, your heart, your mind, in the positive way. Tune in to your humanity. So you can't be a productive individual. And I'm not talking about some American crap. I'm talking about being productive to your community. Maybe the Latin community, the New Island community, the poor white community, what it may be. Be productive in that community. Become an asset to that community and not a liability. That show change. They more afraid of that. If I was some old thug gangster, I would have been out 20, 30 years ago. Because they know by letting me out, all I'm going to do is destroy my own community, kill my own people, kill poor people.
And end up back in there. And then right back in there.
Yeah. You know, and they understand that. And when you start talking about, when you know who the opposition really is, you know who the enemy really is, or it'll be hard for you to get out. You know, and that's part of the struggle. You know, I believe that at some point that we will win this victory. We have a good movement. Yeah. We have a good movement going.
Yes,
you know, it's just that
I back you up on that. I second you on that. I really believe that yes. No, you can continue. It's just I had to emphasize that because it is something that's been going on. And you know, you set a date, and I don't know if you said this before the interview or while we were on. This all started in the 60s. I mean, well before that, but I would say the 60s. Look at what happened in the 70s. Look at what happened in the 80s. Look at what happened in the 90s. You know, like I tell people, a lot of Latinos were also affected during that crack epidemic. I have family and friends who are still in prison under really what I call bogus charges that you shouldn't have gotten such, you know, a harsh sentence for, right? A lot of them were addicted to it and just selling what they were addicted to. And, you know, if you wore, especially, because it affected everybody, but it really affected us minorities. And if
No doubt.
you had a family, you know what that did. That brought certain family members who went through foster care. We all know what foster care brings. So what you're talking about, like, I'm totally hoping that it just people, and I see it. Believe it or not, Abdul, I see it a lot in our communities. People are starting to open up their eyes, like, wait a minute, that don't even make sense. It is true. We had family members that have been locked up or were locked up for a very long time. If you keep a woman, and I always say this on Lunchtime with Anna, and I say this on We See You when we are going to start going across the nation, but it's always something I always stress out to people that I meet. If you get a woman of color, she's, I don't know, because of circumstances, I'm just putting something out there. Let's say she's doing drugs and prostituting herself. You give her a sentence or whatever, and she's going to, it's a vicious circle. We all know this, right? Or that's the way it's set up.
Yes.
So then what happens? You get her so cased up, right? That she's in there during all those years she could procreate. What then?
Yeah.
What then when she gets out and she never had children? This is what happens to us Latino and Black women of color, especially. And, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen to other races. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is what I have witnessed and what I have seen. How is that? How is that we allow the system to do that?
And I'm gonna tell you this here, and this is why I tell my comrades and I tell brothers this here. We already know what the situation is, just like you just explained. The issue now is what we're gonna do about it, right? And like I tell a brother, I hear certain activists say, "Well, man, they bring the drugs in," and I say, "Yeah, but who's telling you to sell it to your own people?" Well, they bring the guns in. I said, "Yeah, but who's telling you to point the gun at your own people?" You're making that choice. You take full responsibility at the time you pick up that gun. Yes, they bring guns in. Yes, they bring the drugs in. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They are an oppressive, fascist, sexist, racist regime. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. We the one that's not doing what we're supposed to be doing. You see what I'm saying? We're the one not doing it. And one of the things we don't do, we don't focus on solution. We focus more so on, man, they're doing this. Nah, I don't do that. For example, during Hurricane Katrina. Prior to Hurricane Katrina, you had all these activists talking about government is, government that, government this. Now, during Hurricane Katrina, the government turned their back on the community. Now you had activists saying, why you didn't do nothing? Wait a minute, that's the same government you said was fascist racist prior to Hurricane Katrina. So I asked you as an activist, why you didn't do nothing? Yep. You knew that our community wasn't prepared. You knew they wasn't prepared for a natural disaster or crisis. So why you didn't prepare them? That's the government. You already say they don't represent you. You represent the people, right? Then you help the people. And that's why I wrote a booklet. You'll see it. It's on Amazon.com too. It's the Community Emergency Response Network providing information to the community on how they can prepare themselves for a natural disaster or crisis. Because one of the things we say is we don't use our isolated environment as an excuse for not nothing. Once we've seen that situation, that same day when Hurricane Katrina hit, I started writing a booklet on how to respond and survive on a natural disaster in the poor community. So what I'm saying is, one thing I was telling them activists out there, you got stuck on keep pointing the finger. Okay, that's on. You're right. The government did do that, but that's the same government that you said was corrupt. What do you expect from them? Now
you said it yourself.
See you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. The government doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Now, what is your excuse? Why you didn't get the community and organize it? Why you didn't provide information and resources that would help the community become self-sufficient during time of a crisis or natural disaster? What is your excuse now? You're supposed to be the friend of the community. You're supposed to be a leader of the community, represent the community. The government don't have to do a goddamn thing. That's the enemy of our people. So, and that's what we do right now. We get caught up so much on what the government is doing. opposed to how we respond. Because here's the thing: we are ultimately responsible for how we respond to oppression and racism. Selling drugs, destroying our own communities, do not correct poverty. It's not the appropriate response to poverty. Selling drugs, destroying our own communities is not the appropriate response to racial oppression. You can sell drugs and kill your people all day. That's not going to change racial oppression. That's not going to change the status quo. We got to stop making excuses. We got to start doing the right thing.
I have to tell you, Abdul, I can tell are a man very knowledgeable, and I really like the way that you think because, and I'll tell you, I'm out here, so I see more minds like yours. And maybe it is that movement that 30 men, I'm assuming it was 30 men, started in there. You know, maybe it is that movement, and maybe you're starting to see your harvest from what you've sowed, you know?
Yeah.
So I see more and more of the way you're thinking. Maybe a little bit extreme. I see some people that are really extreme, and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit overboard because we can't do that neither. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a happy medium. That's for everybody. You know, you can't be, you know, you should know when you were extremists, when you were younger, and I'm saying with your temperament, right? What did it do? It made it worse for you. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes just being that person who's calm, cool, and collective, taking a step back and saying, okay, how would this benefit me or my people? When he talks of Katrina, I so much still feel the pain of looking at those images, the videos. It still hurts my heart, and I'm sure you are aware, Abdul, of in 2017, our Katrina in Puerto Rico, which is my homeland, was our Maria. People died, thousands of people. It still hurts my heart. My grandma only made it to 99 years and would have been around longer if there just would have been longer care. We enjoyed her though, and we're blessed to have her so long. I still get it teary-eyed, so excuse me because it's still emotional for me.
Yes.
So you're in there for 25. Wait. You're in Pelican Bay.
I've been in prison 40.
Yeah.
I'm in Pelican Bay 25. I'm in prison 40 years.
So we go to Pelican Bay. Okay, so you guys win a lawsuit.
And a homeless strike. The homeless strike allowed to bring attention to our situation. We did two homeless strikes. So you said
there was 60 days without eating?
Both of them was like, yeah, that's the third hunger strike. The first two hunger strikes was 21 to 23 days. The third hunger strike, 19 of them. But you had a whole lot of people doing 40 days. Some did 50 days, some did 30 days. But 19 of them did the whole entire 60 days. That's how I damaged my heart, because through that whole 60 days, I was exercising too.
Yeah. Wow.
So they isolated us. And they took us all from Pelican Bay and took us down to New Folsom. And they put together a particular unit that was controlled by the doctor, because the governor and the person at the secretary that run the California prison system signed an affidavit and sent it to the judge, and the judge signed it and told them they can start force feeding us if we get to a certain point. I went from 207 to 128.
Wow, I haven't weighed 128 since I was
2 more days. I was dead. Yeah.
And I'm not laughing. I'm just thinking, I wish I could be 128. I felt good at 128.
I was 5'10" and 207.
Wow.
And then at the end of the hunger strike, I was 5'10", 128, and in the hospital. So I'm saying, if the hunger strike would have went 62, 63 days, I would have been gone.
Wow.
My heart was almost gone. It was like skipping beat. It skipped beat 10, 15 times a day. It skipped beat. It was done. I stressed my heart out, especially doing exercise. But again, we tell people it was worth it. It was worth it because we were able to shut down the security housing unit. We were able to put an end to long-term isolation in California. And again, at one time, we never seen ourselves getting out the hole. They told us never getting out. They told us we'd never get out of prison. But we got out the hole. It took us a long time, but we finally came out the hole. And then a lot of us a lot of my people and other people got to the streets and done 40, 50 years. So I'm saying, we were persistent and it's paying off,
And I commend each and every one of you fellas for that, because I could imagine that's hard. Like I told you before, prior to the interview, we need vitamin D. We need some type of sunlight, something,
Yeah.
In there, you're not getting anything. I don't know what it's like. I could just imagine it's a dark room,
Yes, put it this way. Before I went to isolation, my eyes were brown. If you look at my eyes now, I have blue spots. Since I've been in general population, they're going away now, but you can still see them. And that was due to the lack of direct sunlight. My eyes started developing blue spots. At one time, one of my eyes was almost half blue. So that's what happened when I was in isolation. You can still see it to this day, but it's getting better since I've been out in the sun.
I would take pictures of all that. Just never know what you can use that for. Just me being me. I'm like you. I'm a documenter. I document everything. So, and I don't throw the stuff out I want to have, because you just never know when you need something. Now, okay, so you're there in isolation. No sunlight. I just think it's so huge because people take vitamin D. Like today, are you able to go out, and do they give you a lot more time in the sun, or what is that?
Yeah, it's better than where I came from. I'm in general population now. Okay. I got released from solitary in 2015 because of the lawsuit. But we've been on control because of the COVID outbreak and stuff. Okay. So we haven't really been in the yard like a couple of months, but it's better than it was when I was in isolation.
Well, they should be letting you guys out in the yard, because that's fresh air to kill whatever bacteria. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, but they wanted to keep this distance, space, and all that, right? So that's what we had on that.
Now, okay, so you're dealing with all of this. You finally get out. You guys have the lawsuit. You guys win. All you guys get is pretty much I'm sorry, you can go back to general population. Did I understand that correctly?
No, they ain't no sorry. They did not want to let us out. They were still resisting. Even when they was ordered to release us, they were still resisting. We shouldn't let these individuals out. So the lawyers, we had major law firms from New York to San Francisco representing us, and even people from the United Nations came to represent us. Wonderful. So it took, like I said, even when we won the lawsuit, they were still trying to keep us in. They developed a step-down program, and they try to use this step-down program to knock out the lawsuit. Well, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put them in a step-down program. It'll take 3 years for them to get to the line, to the general population. They got to go to step A, B, C, stuff like that, and then they'll be released. The judge said, no, you got to get them out now. They already did 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now you're going to put them in a step-down program, which is not a guarantee we ever get out. So they were trying to use that method to get the judge to dismiss the lawsuit, and she wasn't going for that.
And this is federal or state, Judge?
This is state. But the lawsuit wasn't fair. It was a federal lawsuit. But we're in the state system.
Of course.
If you look, like I said, if you look it up, if you Google Pelican Bay State Prison, you'll see all that.
Okay. I like to read, as you know.
Lawsuit, everything. The lawsuit, Asker versus the government, Asker versus the California Department of Corrections, but it's a class action lawsuit.
Okay. And you guys have read that. I like looking at cases. Abdul, I read a lot of law because I want to know. And I thought about taking some law classes just to know and just to be able, I don't want to be an attorney, but just to be able to help our people. I'm very big on that. Now, so that's a lot to go through trauma. I can imagine PTSD for a lot and anxiety. A lot of the men who had to endure that is insane.
I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay. I can just imagine how hard that is, right? Especially being in those implorable conditions. Then, okay, so you get out. After all this battle, the judge was finally like, nope, you gotta let him out. The law says you gotta let him out. And you go back to general population. Is this when you get poisoned, or is it in between?
No. That was no. That happened right after the hunger strike. That happened when I was still in isolation, right after the hunger strike.
Right after, so you're already hungry, trying to recuperate your body, and then they bring. So you're in the hospital.
Not so much hungry. I just got back. I was still taking medication. Because of the hunger strike. I was still under doctor care because I tore my body up, and was during that time when they put something in my food. What it was the whole bottom tray under the eggs was filled with black ink. They trying to say it was soil, but the thing came out was lead based. But the judge is saying it don't matter what it was, what the ink doing in the food. They put the ink in my tray and put the food on top of it so I couldn't see it. And they try to say, well, it wasn't poisonous, it was just that. But the judge said it don't matter what it was.
There shouldn't be nothing on your food.
Yeah, wow. And that's what the judge told them. But yet, if you were, matter of fact, I can send you the chrono. I can send you the chrono because I still got the chrono. Okay. And where you'll read where it says when people were seeking to get information about it, they said, well, it's confidential information. We can't share it. But we can assure that Mr. So-and-so received proper health care. That's a lie, I didn't. But that's what they say in the chrono. Because when people was writing or calling in, they send them a copy of this chrono. That's how I knew the chrono exists. Because somebody out there sent it to my lawyer sent it to me. Gotcha. But that's what they were sending to people out there. I didn't know that.
That's just more than insane. Now, when you believe that this happened, are the people who did this, are they still in the same positions, or have they been released of their duties?
That's what I'm saying. They blame prisoners, and prisoners was nowhere around my food. I was in isolation. They feed us. They handed us our food tray. But that's who they try to blame. They never took responsibility for it. In fact, they tried to say, no, we had nothing to do with it. It had to be prisoners. But yet they was the last one with my food tray.
Wow.
And then you had two prisoners in isolation who seen them pick my tray up from the bottom of the stack. Everybody else's tray was on the top part of the car. This one tray is on the bottom of the car, and you had two people that seen them pick up the one from the bottom of the car and gave it to me.
And the people
and only they could have done it.
To this,
yeah, only the prisoners, only the prison guards could have done that because I'm in isolation. They don't have prisoners feeding us in isolation at that time.
And see,
there's no way somebody from the Go ahead.
No, that I was going to tell you one thing that because I have a few friends that do work, the Department of Corrections, or you formerly used to work, that they've explained to me. They're like, Anna, the way the system is set up, it's set up to be a dead end road. So you can kick, you can do whatever, you can fight. The only way that you can fight is going through the law, going through the system. That's the only way you're going to fight it. And I had to learn.
But now let me say this now, right? Partially what he's saying is partially true. Because if the system was doing their job, remember, I'm gonna give you an example. All the things we did that got us out, We've been following the same type of lawsuit even before I came to prison. We've been following the same exact lawsuits in the 60s and 70s. I got locked up in 81. We were following the same lawsuit. When we first went to isolation, we followed the same lawsuit. We were denied every time. In Pelican Bay, the same issue. We were denied every time by the courts. The politicians ignored us, and we used the law. But what changed was, this is what happened. Okay, back in 94, we had a class action lawsuit in Pelican Bay called the Madrid case. They were using these tasers. Because of what happened to us in Pelican Bay, they stopped using tasers in prison. They used a taser. And we even say something contrary to what they say, they tasers. We were going through all that. Now, we filed a class action lawsuit. But this is what happened. Being that we were able to use the media to expose what was happening, they banned media from Pelican Bay and Corcoran State Prison. Media couldn't come in there no more. So for all this time, it was hard for us to reach out to the media. But the hunger strike put us on me. If you study the hunger strike, our hunger strike was all over the country, all over the world. Even the one we did for 21, 22, 23 days. We've been on 60 Minutes like 10, 15 times. You damn near name all the talk shows. You name all the major newspapers. They all covered the hunger strike. The hunger strike gave us that platform. And the politician all of a sudden said, damn, we didn't know about this. It forced them to acknowledge what was happening. They had to respond then.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't for them lawsuits, wouldn't for the hunger strike, the court still would have been ignoring them. Now, so I'm saying it's so crap. Just like the part about I couldn't write my wife, right? One of the brothers, he won. But what they're trying to say was my wife was a drop box for a prison group, which was not true. It was a lie. And one of my brothers went to court on that in an evidentiary hearing in 2004, and the judge ruled in his favor and told the prison they're lying about my wife. My wife is not a drop box. But yet, I still couldn't write her. But the judge ruled in the favor that she wasn't. But I still couldn't write her. So what I'm saying is this here. In some cases, yes. If you have the right support out there, you have the right publicity, then you can utilize the law. But in most cases, nah. That's crap.
Yeah.
That's crap, because we've been fighting. Because if that was the case, we would have been out 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
That makes sense.
We've been filing lawsuits since the 60s. We've been filing lawsuits, complaints since the 60s, and it took us all this time. Like I said, I did 32 plus years in solitary confinement. I've been filing lawsuits since I got to the hole. So if it take almost 30, 32 years, 33 years to get out the hole, then that period right there is just no work.
Abdul, I know that you're doing count.
Yes.
Do you want to go ahead and
they're about to do it right now.
Do your count, and then we'll come back on air? You can give me a call back, and we'll go back on air and finish up the interview.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, make sure you do, because I want to finish the interview. We're halfway through. All right. Thank you. All right, you guys. So you guys got half of what went on. This has been a lot of information. I'm just really glad that I did take upon this interview. Such a knowledgeable man with so much to show each and every one of us. And so I'm going to be waiting for him to call back, and then we'll go back on to part 2. So I'm going to end this. God bless each and every one of you guys. I will see you guys next Wednesday on Lunchtime with Anna. A huge hug for each and every one of you guys. Ciao. Next Wednesday.